gosh.
Welcome back to everyone. The Sunday Night Teacher Talk. It is rare that we have time before we hit the live button.
I know. Usually we're like rushing to sit
But
down.
even that we just literally had 2 minutes, and then
I know, we
it's
just
like
sat here.
just talking about whatever. It's like, what else are we gonna do? We have 2 minutes. Let's talk about something. Yeah. So hilarious, man. Oh my gosh, gang, how are you? I hope that everyone is doing well. It is, it's a gloomy day here in New Mexico. I'm looking out the window in front of me. It's part of the beauty of having actually, my old office had a window in it also that I liked even better. Anyway, that doesn't really matter, but I'm just saying that I'm glad to be here. And so this whole idea is to continue to bridge community and create a space where we're asking questions, we're answering questions, you're getting what you need from this. And so if you have a question, go ahead and leave it in the chat. You can put a Q or the word question before it. Lets us know that it's a question. And look, there's nothing like, I've said this before, but it's something I would mention in my classroom regularly is this idea that like, there's nothing off limits, that there are, we're not just trying to be really great teachers. We're trying to have a really great life. And although I haven't 100% figured that out, it's a whole lot easier to give people advice on their lives sometimes than it is your own. So with that, you can ask anything that you want. And I don't know. Is there anything else we need to talk about or say or whatever?
I don't think so.
No?
I'm pretty fuzzy brained lately, so I don't know.
All right, I'll make sure to ask you deep questions during the show then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
we don't have any questions yet, but David Anaya is on here.
David Anaya?
Yeah, he says best teacher ever, and he says remember
caught him
when
cheating.
You caught me cheating on a test.
Yeah, David Anaya. It was pretty slick too. And I'll tell you what, David Anaya is one of those dudes that was like so nice that you kind of felt a little bit bad. He was also in like one of the worst classes I ever had. Like I disliked that, not the whole class, his period. That was the period that I had like Amir in and stuff. And Malachi Pippin, y'all know what I'm talking. Anaya knows what I'm talking about. Malachi Pippin, when he was a freshman, was kind of a turd and was difficult to teach. But the that grade level I loved. But Anaya was in there. He had his ID on his chest, and he had the answers behind it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it was pretty slick. But he got a 0 for that.
Still caught.
Can't retake it. And then I remember Anaya, the other thing that's popping into my mind is we were doing a call with all of us during COVID, and like me and Cho were like leading phone calls for like kids that were away at college and stuff. Because I think Anaya's class, that was the year that the kids didn't get like a prom. They didn't get like a proper graduation and stuff like that. But with that, we drove around to everyone's house.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
I remember Naya getting on a call with us, and he was talking about all these parties that he had been going to, and Cho was having like a whole fit about it because it was like during COVID, and you're gonna get sick. And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm young," and like it was it was so funny. Yo, dude, I hope you're doing really well, man. It's good to just hear your name.
Okay, we have a question from Jacob is asking, thoughts on leadership. My passion is teaching and being in the classroom, but our school is desperate as no one has applied. Yeah. I don't really want to do it, but have been tapped on the shoulder.
Don't do it. That's my short answer. I think that, I would be far more apt to do leadership role now, but that's because I've grown into a person I think that can handle a leadership role. I've seen too many times folks take that job because they were asked, because of the prestige, because it is oftentimes a significant salary bump. But if you're not ready to lead, like there's no one to go to. Like if you're in many leadership roles, there's no one to go to above you. It all comes down to you and also on you. And if a good idea happens, great. If something bad happens, it's all on you as well. There's a significant time factor in there as well that I've seen folks that like didn't realize that this was basically all consuming in your first year. So I'm thinking about first years as an educator, all consuming. First years as a leader, it's like that to the 10th degree, because you have to make decisions, right? Whether it's, do we get off for a snow day, or what happens if something happens to a kid, or someone gets hurt, or there's a fight, or there's an angry parent. Like, you have to have the capacity to lead. John Maxwell has this great distinction. If you look up he has a book called The 12 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And one of them in there is he talks about the distinction between leadership and management, and how too many of our so-called leaders, right, administrators in schools even, are mere managers. They're just, it's like, here's how we do it. We just keep the train moving forward instead of actually leading us somewhere. And I often liken that to the difference between being like a ref and a coach. Refs just manage the game. They're just like making sure they're calling it how they see it and making sure everyone follows the rules. But leaders are trying to get us somewhere. They're trying to get us to the win. If you don't listen to your intuition, gang, this goes with anything. I have learned, not even by looking at myself, by watching my wife. My wife as a parent, her motherly intuition is so remarkable. And I know it's not exclusive to her, that like this is a thing that parents have. But I've just noticed it more in moms. Not to say that dads do not have it, but it is this intuition that moms have, that how many times she's been like, I knew we should have had that test done. I knew that this was a problem. I knew this was going on. I had a feeling I should have said something about that, to the point now where she's like, yeah, I'm feeling about calling a teacher, because like, I feel like something's off. I'm like, do it. We don't even have to have the conversation anymore. Just do it, because it's almost, I can't think of a time when it wasn't right. Your intuition as an individual, as a human, is no different. Wayne Dyer used to say I don't think Wayne Dyer said it. He got it from someone else. God's one and only voice is silence. And I love when Pastor Darius talks about God only speaks in whispers. That's it. Like, he doesn't yell things. He just speaks in whispers all the time. I think that is 100% your intuition as well. So yeah. But maybe if you want to do that, I think it's a planned thing. Don't fill it in because there's the hole. Can you support a new leader really well? Can you start looking into and growing in the capacity of what you would need to grow into to be a leader? Can you take a smaller leadership role? Like maybe you're the head of your department first, something like that, to kind of like build yourself up to where you need to get to.
I think when you think about leadership also, is it's not just leading, but you're problem solving, which is like you take on all. So it's like, do you have the capacity and are you capable, and is that in your personality to like, you're not just leading something and making decisions, but you're going to be the problem solver for everyone that's there, that's under you, that's whether it's a department or a whole principal or whatever it is, like you just deal with everybody's problems, or you're the person who's supposed to solve them and lead them the correct way. So it's like, not everybody is built for that.
Well, or has been developed yet for that.
Yes.
John Maxwell also has this, one of the 12 irrefutable laws is called the law of the lid, meaning your institution that you're a part of can only be as good as your leadership. That if your leadership has not developed the capacity to have difficult conversations, even though you as a teacher may have, it's a moot point, because it's like they don't know how to do that. So you can only be as great as your leadership is. And that's a heavy head that wears the crown, you know?
It is. Okay, up next is, I lost my question. It was Ruth Akers.
Take your time. I can sing.
No. Ruth is up next asking, any idea for holiday gifts for teachers under me that is affordable?
You know, I was going to make a video about this, and my wife said it wasn't a good idea.
I didn't say to do that. I didn't say to do that. I said that one was a good idea.
You said teachers don't buy things for teachers. They're like, what are they going to do? Buy it for themselves?
All right. Maybe I said that.
Gosh.
But so and I still think that that's true, but Ruth is special and wonderful and willing to buy her team or whoever is like in her department or her whole school. I don't know how big it is or who she's purchasing for exactly, but I do think that that's a rare thing. Not everybody does that. And let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Like maybe teachers do that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Witter always did it for us when he was our department head. he would buy, but
for the department,
and he would buy like quirky things. Like that's how I got that R2D2 up there. He bought Star Wars action figures. He matched the action figure to your personality and then gave you the action figure. And it was really funny because it was like Randy and I got C-3PO and R2D2 because I was kind of always starting shit. And Randy, and Randy wasn't, and was like, but we were really good friends and things like that. I think that doing something funny or silly like that could be a good idea. What else? I think things that fill people up would probably like, I think as a teacher, like a movie gift card, if you know someone likes the movies, I would go to. This is let me say this real quick. My buddy, Dave Martinez, who's a principal in Kentucky, does a form at the beginning of the year to find out all the likes and wants of the people in his school, so that when he does need to do this, it's almost like you forgot filling out the form, but he knew your favorite candy. He knew if you liked salty or sweet. He knew if you loved the movies or a good book or whatever. And then when he gifts them things, he's in the know.
Off the list. Yeah, that's a good idea. She said she's open to making things. Gosh, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. And it's difficult when you're getting for multiple teachers. Like that price point adds up really fast.
But you could give me a tin of chocolate chip cookies, which is literally my favorite thing in the whole world to eat, and I would be thrilled.
Homemade gifts are, I feel like, a really good way, especially like baked goods. I know that's such
if it's your jam too. If it's your jam,
that's such a cliche. Like some people like getting baked goods, other people are like, because it's
But that takes a little bit of knowing who you're kind of talking to. Yeah. Also, I would say coffee gift certificates is a thing that teachers get the most. I don't get tired of coffee.
I was going to say gift certificates, and I get that those add up, but even like a $5, like, so when we were on the East Coast, Brody had a lot of teachers, right? Like a lot of, because he was special education. So we had like more teachers than the average, right? But I
had one.
Yeah.
Bro had like five or six.
And so I wanted to get them all something. And so we had Wawa's. It's a little convenience store that like everybody went to. And I just got $5 gift cards. They weren't much, but it went towards whatever you were purchasing. And it could at least just get you a cup of coffee there. So I don't always think gift cards have to be super expensive, or it's like if you're giving a gift card to a movie theater, it doesn't have to be for the whole night, a $50 gift card. It's just a little something to go towards it. Yeah. So I think I do like gift cards, but keep that in mind that it doesn't have to be the whole thing.
Yeah. Or if I would say even though it's a teachery thing, it's kind of like buying when my wife asks for things to use in the kitchen, I just kind of innately feel a little bit bad about that. That's
like my whole Christmas list this year.
Yeah. But I think things like
I use it.
Flare pens are expensive. And if you know that someone likes flare pens, get them a set of flare pens, right? Or Expo markers.
Or open a pack if you're willing to make things like doing like you can buy that in a pack and then like divvy it up. Everybody gets one.
You get a little bouquet of them with some cookies and a $5 gift card or something like that. I think is fun. I will say this. My favorite things to get at the holidays from parents or like from my school leadership is a really nice note that isn't just, hey, you're great, you're wonderful, we love having you on the team, thanks so much, I hope you have a great break. But it's like Dr. Tennant who was our principal, best principal I ever worked for, would write these really nice cards where it was like he noticed things, where he would say things like, you make your hallway come alive. And I see like he would speak to the relationships I built with people or the way I mentored.
Specific, not so general.
He noticed things. And that is a keepsake I have forever that I hold on to. So that after I die, my kids know that other people liked me also. That's my whole reason for keeping that too. That was dark. Go ahead.
All right. Our next question comes from, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Hamza. Yeah, is that right?
I got you, Hamza. Don't even worry about it.
Thanks.
I've had a couple kids with that name.
All right.
It's always spelled different though. My guys always had an H at the end for whatever reason.
Sometimes I wish I wasn't on because I would totally go write that in my pronounce app and then listen to how it says it. I live with that thing. Okay. They're asking, Please, how can we teach grammar or any other component in such a way to make students interested and especially not bored?
This is a great question. I think there's absolutely ways to do this. I think one, gamifying things is the move. So whether you're on, but here's the thing with gamifying stuff. It doesn't have to, like, one, the goal is to get kids to know it. Right. So that's where I think we have to start. We have to start with the end in mind. What do I want kids to know? Now, what if this was easy? Because we tend to overcomplicate things. I was looking up stuff the other day for my daughter. I was proofreading a paper for her. And I was looking up something about commas because I know the rule, but I couldn't remember why it was the rule. So I looked it up, and even the way they explain it is like, it's so like highfalutin that it's not accessible to anyone. So I think our job as educators is to sometimes take that information, is to always take that information and then how do I explain this to you so you understand it? I don't have to dumb it down. I still want you to get the principle. I want you to know where commas go and periods, and maybe we're even going to get out there and teaching kids how to use a semicolon. So they don't just throw those, they just feel those out. There's a great Nate Bargatze skit where he talks about using commas, and he's like, I didn't know there were rules for commas. I thought you just kind of felt it out. I just like felt a comma went there. And I think people do the same thing with a semicolon, but they just want to jazz it up.
I love semicolons.
Incorrectly. So it's trying to figure it out, simplify it, and then gamify it so that we are giving kids a reason. Your students. So the way I gamify things too is like, I would implore people to, and maybe this is a video also. I think over COVID, Kahoot was amazing and then started to suck so bad because everybody was using it. Quizlet, the same thing. Flipgrid, the same thing. There's all these different apps that people used. But I was on Quizlet the other day looking up something for my boy because we were learning some vocab together. And it was looking at what they have and then how do I simply sprinkle magic on this? What is, like, I hate Kahoot music. So I used to just mute Kahoot music, and then I would type in something into YouTube like 1970s game show music or 1970s supermarket music is my favorite. And then I'd play that over top of it, and then I'd get like my gold microphone out, and all of a sudden, hey everybody, welcome back. I want to welcome everyone back to Quizlet. And then we would make a thing out of it. It wasn't over the top. I didn't come in an outfit, although I'm not against that. Like, but just making it a little corny made it fun, made kids want to do it. And so it was trying to figure that out. Maybe I have two kids and I have buzzers in the front of my room, but they were just like big buttons that look like the Staples. That was easy button, but they do like that sound like that. Bow, 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 bow. Or I have another one that just says no every time you hit it. So I'd have those up there. And then kids have to, whoever hits it first, like you get to try and answer the question and win a point for your team. So it's still Quizlet. It's still using the same thing, but I'm just finding ways that I can kind of jazz it up. Sometimes the thing you have to learn cannot be fun, right? I don't know if a semicolon can be fun. I don't know if diagramming sentences can be fun. I don't know if inverting fractions can be fun. But the way you deliver it can be fun and can be incentivized for young people, that it's the thing we're doing. And then, oh yeah, guess what? I accidentally learned something along the way. I'll take it. I don't need you to love what I'm doing. I don't need you to love learning what gets underlined, what gets quotes, what can you italicize. I don't care if you love it. I just need you to know it. So I simplify it. I figure out a way to communicate it to them so they understand it, and then I gamify it in some kind of cheesy way that's going to win me points. And win me points meaning by like I'm gonna walk away with more kids knowing stuff than they did before.
All right. Oh my gosh. Are you good with this name? I'm going with M.
Let me say, I haven't said this in a while.
I feel like we say it every single episode.
Listen, but it needs to be said, because
ridiculous.
if it's someone's first time and we can't say their name, when there's too many vowels involved, it is a dyslexic trait that gets kind of
all of us
swimming around in your head, and it doesn't make sense to our brains.
Yeah.
So I apologize for not being able to say people's names sometimes. I wish I could sit here with a pronounce app. I really, 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 it is one of my most favorite things to be able to do as a teacher, is like say someone's name correctly or call them by the nickname that they like or whatever, because I think there's such power in that. And so that's why I say it we could make a whole video of us just saying this.
We could like go back to every episode and probably clip that out and make multiple long videos of us explaining that. So I think it's Albarazi. I'm going with that. M. Albarazi.
Okay.
The
apologize. Anyway, let me give you a good answer to your question.
Okay. Dear Mr. Reynolds, can you tell me what to do as a K-11 teacher who has students who use tablets improperly to play games during lessons? I cannot teach anymore. They have all books on tablets. That's tough.
There is software where you can see what students are on at any given time. So that's a possibility. Is there a way? But
is that your school has to like purchase?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's not an option, what's your suggestion?
I think part of it is, if I had to get around it, I want to not have to play like cat and mouse the whole time. I don't want to catch you. That's just not interesting to me. I think I would just default to some like regular ideas here. I think I would go to one, having a real conversation with students about the work we're doing, about the meaningfulness of the work that we're doing, and how it's important. I would then treat that work like it's important. Really interesting thing with Kev last night. I was talking to an old student of mine. We call him DJ Dirty Kev. And so Kev was saying, somehow it came up where he was saying he was talking about when people have to tell you about themselves instead of just showing you about themselves. And he said that there were teachers, and I don't know if they watch this, so I won't say their name, but there were teachers at Boys Latin that would tell you how nice they were, how I'm a nice guy all the time. And he's like, but it was always like, if you have to tell me that, like your actions don't show that. He's like, and then he said to me, it was just really kind. He said, you never had to tell us you were nice or fair or kind or cool. He goes, we just knew it because that's how you acted all the time. So I think it's acting as if what you're doing is really important. Why do I call kids on stuff? Because I don't have to tell you education is important. I'm about to show you education is important. And so it's having that real conversation, no matter how young your students are. I don't care if they are 6 years old, 7 years old. It is having a shorter conversation, perhaps, but nonetheless important. And why it's important? Because they are important and because you want them to succeed in life. That is the bottom line here. And so I'll do anything I got to do to help you be successful. And right now you're getting in your own way with these games. It's about to stop. Not because I said so, although that should be, you should respect me because I'm, your teacher and I'm a human being, but it doesn't mean that but that aside, I'm about to call you on your stuff because you're so important to me. And because my job is to help you be successful, even when you get in your own way. The next thing is calling kids out on it. I would perhaps figure out, is there a paper version that you can have ready if kids are really, really struggling with not switching or they really think they're slick? I would contact home constantly, letting folks know. And look, I'm going to tell you all right now. Here's a super tip that I need to make a short video out of also. I was talking to a teacher the other day that said you cannot send kids to their administration without calling home first, which is the stupidest. It's so dumb. I think contacting home is absolutely important, but when you're in the middle of an emergency, it's like you should be able to send a kid out. So I said, there are two things I would do. Stop writing long emails to parents that you have to formulate. Write a half good email that you can get done in a couple seconds, put it in Chat GPT and say, revise this to sound kinder, nicer, more eloquent, whatever. And then it just populates the rest of the email. They're always good, right? I do this all the time. And then there is, I think it's star. I forget what you have to look where you live, what it is, but I think it's *70. If you put that as a prefix to any phone number, it will go immediately to whatever phone number's voicemail. So, and because here's what the thing is, we all know that calling parents is useful. We also know that calling parents takes an enormous amount of time because you end up, instead of a 5-minute phone call, being on for 30 minutes, and that you can't do that at scale. So what I do is send that first voicemail, right? Write the voicemail or write to email that is, hey, this is what's going on. If you need to call me back, I'm available after this time. Because I also can't do a call back in the middle of the school day. Hey, hit me up after 3:30, between 3:30 and 6 or whatever. Now I'm giving parents, I'm not interrupting their day. They are not then interrupting my day, which I can't answer my phone anyway because I'm teaching. And it gives us a time, a window of time that they can call back at their leisure to have that conversation. But I would be contacting home on the regular. I think the other thing is give kids less time to do work, right? There's with the exception of students that have learning disabilities or learning differences. But if you give them too much time, they might be playing games because they think that's going to help them. And although I'm not about taking points off for you not paying attention or you doing something you're not supposed to do, because that's a whole nother conversation, but I'm not interested in it. What I am interested in is giving you a window of time that you're going to feel not a bad pressure, but just know that you only have this much time to get something done. So you have to use it wisely. If you're playing a game, you're not getting it done. When the buzzer goes off, it's a wrap. So if you're playing a game and not getting your work done, you can't do this later or at home or something like that. So it's keeping those sort of positive constraints on your students so that they move forward.
That's a tough one. That's hard to navigate if all of their books are on a tablet.
And I was thinking, like, could you remove other apps and things like that? But there's so many games that are online. And one, they move at such a rate that I don't know that schools know. Yes. They don't know all the things that are hot, right? And two, kids always have a way around it. I remember when I taught in Camden, they blocked YouTube, and I always needed to show videos that were on YouTube because what I was going to do. The alternative was getting a VHS tape at the time and bringing it into school.
Did your students teach you how to get around that?
Yeah, I would always go, yo, I can't get on YouTube again. Someone come up here and get me on YouTube, and they'd be like, I got you, Reynolds. And they would just come up and bust it out.
That's funny. Okay. Ray is up next asking, I really want to ask my teacher, remember she's a student.
Yep.
I really want to ask my teacher if I can teach one of her younger classes for half the lesson so I can see what it's like. Is there anything I should know first? And is this even a good idea?
It's a great idea. Kids will love it. Our daughter does a thing. So my daughter's in 9th grade, and she does a thing where they go and read to the kindergartners, and they love it. Like, my daughter likes it, but the little
wait a minute. She's 15 and doesn't like anything, so we're really not so sure.
I mean, Marley is like, she loves the things she loves,
and everything else in the world is apathetic.
Is what she would say. It's mid, right? That's what Mars like. It was mid. That being said, though, I think the kids would love it. And maybe it's not even a half a lesson, right? Maybe it's like the first 10 minutes of class. It's the hook. It's the teacher does the hook maybe, and you're going to like be the one that reads the story. So they set it up and tell the kids what they're going to learn and what they should pay attention to, things like that. And then you're reading the story. I would constantly look for ways to get your feet wet in that area to start feeling that out and seeing if that's something that you like. And I think it's an awesome idea. I can't imagine a teacher not doing it. Unless a kid was like a pretty awful human being, that's the only thing that would stop me from saying yes. But it's the novelty of you coming in too is going to just benefit them as well. When I used to have, Maggie and Christina from St. Joe's would come in. My guys thought it was the best. Like they were also, it's all boys school. So like anytime cute girls come in, they were like, total dorks about it. But once they got to know them, it was, I mean, Maggie and Christina went on class trips with us and all kinds of stuff. And my guys just loved it. When Genesis used to come in, they used to love working with her as well. Man, I forgot about that.
Oh,
Genesis student taught in my classroom. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're out of questions.
It's fine with me. Look, gang, it's
anybody.
These weekends are interesting, and we're here for what you need, not just for what we want to give. I'm curious before unless there's a question that pops up, I am curious about something. We're thinking about making, and I won't let the whole cat out of the bag here. We're thinking about shifting the way that we do Sunday night teacher talk. Partially because it is very expensive to produce this, right? No one knows this, but it is like the platforms that we use, software. And it's a lot of money to do this.
Well, it didn't used to be. They recently literally doubled their prices for things. So all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I was paying this much when it used to be this much. So
yeah. So I'm curious if we only streamed this on YouTube and then it went out to, you could also continue to do it as a podcast anywhere you want to do it, right? So whether that's iTunes, like Apple Podcasts or whatever they call it now, Spotify, wherever else you get podcasts from, that will not change. But the live stream itself, if it was only be on YouTube, would that pose an issue for anyone that we're not thinking about? So right now it's on, I don't think it's on Twitter anymore because Twitter, I think is it's like the cesspool of the internet, but it's
the fact on. That you still call it Twitter.
Twitter, it's on X. Is Facebook? 2 places on Facebook. It's typically on Instagram. It's on YouTube. It's on LinkedIn. I think that's it. We're talking about just doing it on YouTube. I'm just curious if you could just leave a comment, even if you're not here on the live. Are there any issues that might present for someone that we are not considering, because I don't want to cut off access to someone that needs it. So
it will still be on YouTube. You can go ahead and say this.
All right. So what we're going to do is start a YouTube partner program. And because what this is also doing is it really affects our algorithm, because the live does not get as many views as a typical video does. And part of being on YouTube is you have to learn how to play the game, because what happens with the algorithm is they're not pushing our content out. And we know this because we can see the analytics. If I have a couple of videos that do really well, and then I have this and it doesn't get enough views,
it just messes with our algorithm. Analytics and algorithm.
And I don't care if it gets a lot of views.
We show up for whoever comes.
We could have 5 people a week. I'd still show up every single week. But if it's stopping other people from getting the other content that they may need, that's what I'm concerned about. So what we're going to do is set up this partner program with YouTube that folks can donate if they would like to, right? Do not have to. We're also going to make it free for people so folks
to
can
watch
still
Sunday
watch
Night Teacher Talk, you would have to sign up to be a part of the YouTube partner program, because it will stream in that gated community, but it will be free. There's no charge to
there's no putting in credit card information or anything.
Yeah.
Should you choose to support us, because this work does cost money. Should you choose, you can do that as well. But that's going to happen, I think, after the new year, we're going to make that shift.
But it'll just separate our regular YouTube videos from our live feeds, and then we can still do all of this, but they won't kind of mess with each other, and it will still be free. That's our idea. So let us know what you think.
Yeah.
If that works. But we do have a couple more questions.
Yeah, hit it. I'm really having to drink a lot of water today.
We're thirsty. Okay. Kay is up next. I'm really struggling today, man. Asking, how do you approach gaming with students? I play Call of Duty and students want to add me.
So this is a great question.
It is a great question. You got this with Fortnite.
I do. I have played Fortnite with students a lot. And the only place that gets tricky is, one, I want your parents to know that this is happening. I don't know as a parent, I don't think I'd have a problem with it. But if Brody was like, Miss Capone wants to play Fortnite with me, I'd think it was hilarious and go ahead and do it. That's one. 2, I also want parents to know, because sometimes when I'm playing with other students, I can hear their parents getting into an argument, mom's yelling at someone to pick your up off the floor, whatever. Life's real. it's kind of like we're back at COVID teaching through Zoom. I want parents to know. So I'm like, when I get on with kids, I go, yo, tell your mom or your dad or whoever you're on with Reynolds right now. Because I don't want them to say something out of pocket and they feel foolish. I don't want to do that to you. The other thing is the thing to be mindful of is kids say crazy stuff when they're on. So now if you have students, and my boy would never curse in public ever. He does not curse in front of people. He's playing video games. I'm like, bro, what even just happened? You sound like a truck driver in here. We got to tell him to chill all the time. So am I playing video games with kids? How do they talk with their other friends? Do they curse? Do they talk about inappropriate stuff? That's just something to be mindful of and letting kids know in the front end, like, look, I'm on here with you, but and look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I curse when I play video games too. And I really, since we moved to New Mexico, look, we're from New Jersey. We curse a lot back in New Jersey. It's so crazy when we even talk to our friends out from back in Jersey.
East Coast phone calls. It's like
F words. So it's like I feel like talking to Gary V. There's so many F words in there, and I'm like, it's not even necessary. Like that's I literally think I'm like,
it's just a part of their speech.
It is, but I want kids to know, hey, when I'm on here, I need you to shift gears and code switch, and you can't be cursing because because it's going to ruin this for us, right? And
so I have a question. I thought, and I think this is worth mentioning, but wasn't your rule before like you didn't play with your current students? Like
I did that.
That's like not, and I think that that's really wise. It's a good boundary to put in. It's like as long as they're like you already had them and they're former students.
So
but
if you're in ninth grade,
that are in your current classroom, that feels to me like that is too personal.
You know what it is? It's because you become look.
You're playing a video game. I get it.
There's talk around not becoming friends with your students. I am friends with a lot of my students. I was friends with students that were still in my school.
But that's not an easy boundary line for everyone to do. You're very good at it.
I don't do friends when you're a freshman in my class. I'll be your mentor. I'll be your buddy. But I'm not like friends are different. My students could call me because they were having like Danzer's having trouble like with his girlfriend. And he's in 11th grade and he's like, Reynolds, I see someone to talk to. I got you. Like, I'll sit here and talk to you.
Sure. But that's why I think it's in this case for video games and all that comes with playing video games. It's you're gaming. So your emotions are all heightened. Like there's a lot of things happening and things can slip out. And I get that for video gaming. So to me, in my mind, it's like, I wouldn't game with my current students. Once you've passed my class and we're cool and you want to like game, like I kind of would go there, but not.
I think it's a great way to connect with students, though. Honestly, it's where you're going, where your students are. Yeah, and I don't see it as being anything different than like I've been invited to a lot of different things in my life, from birthday parties to quinceañeras to all kinds of stuff. And I think if you're invited somewhere, if kids are asking you, then it's a great place to connect with students.
Tristan made a good point. I mean, I don't think I would go this far, but he said, in terms of gaming, make sure to check your board's ethics codes. In my district, you are only supposed to communicate with students digitally via our school email.
Yeah, and that's a good point as well.
Yeah, so it's some things to take into consideration. Yeah. Okay, we have another question.
Yeah, hit it.
TS is on asking, how can I work with a trio of how do you say that word? Antagonistic students. I only have them for half an hour for homeroom, but they take as much energy in that one period as the whole day. I have tried all kinds of things, but they just feed off of each other. Nothing dissuades them. The behaviors aren't damaging, so admin doesn't take it seriously. Things like joking about killing class pets. 11th grade.
Yo, kids are so dumb sometimes.
I
just like the stuff they say is so ridiculous. It's like, what? Like, we're really having this conversation? I would. So I think it's breaks it up, like break up the situation. Have them sit in different spots, maybe give them jobs. So I have kids that like, I'm thinking a couple of years ago, I had these kids that started like like an unofficial gang. Like it wasn't like a gang, like they were like Bloods and Crips, but they had like this crew and they called each other like a gang and they fed off one another and they were super toxic. They felt like they ran the school. I just gave them jobs. I'd wait for homeroom and be like, yo, I need you to go pass out these papers to these different classes. I need you to go and sometimes it was made up stuff. Sometimes it wasn't even real. I'd be like, yo, go to the 3rd floor. You got to walk and take the steps and drop this packet of paper off for someone or whatever. And I'll be like, and tell them I'll explain it to them later, but they just have to hold on to it for me. Right. So they weren't even getting questions from the teachers. Sometimes I give them things to do in class so that they have to focus on something or do something, clean something, go out in the hallway and clean up this bulletin board, right? I want you to remove all the stuff in the bulletin board. They're never going together. It's always individual things that I'm asking them to do. Because if the conversation isn't working, if admin's not helping, if they're contacting home and that's not helping, it's what do I do in real time? It has to be shift their focus so they cannot feed. You can't feed on what you're not next to, right? There's a t-shirt for you. So it's separating them, but then giving them. So sometimes opposite sides of the classroom isn't far enough. So how can I have you doing something? Other times I am not beyond asking a neighboring teacher, hey, listen, I have these 3 kids in class. It is a friggin' nightmare and is ever growing pain in my butt. Can I send them to do you have something they can do? Or can they come and sit in your room? Sometimes kids together in a period are horrible, but individually they can be really like either great or just fine. So maybe we can trade some kids. They come into my classroom. I make sure that they're here. I take the attendance and then I send them to your room and that's it. And look, I don't worry about explaining a darn thing to kids. When I've had the conversations, when I've tried to explain to you what needs to happen or how you need to roll in my classroom that you can't talk about that stuff, bro, it's a wrap. I'm not even trying to be close to you. Like I'll send you somewhere else because you're messing up the flow of my whole class. And you're stopping me from a lot of times being able to get down with a whole bunch of other students because you're taking all my focus, energy, and effort. So I think sending them somewhere else. So like my guy, Chris Carson on here, if I was in a school with Carson does that all the time. He's always taking kids out of people's classes and his presence. This is the other thing. You might be sending them to a teacher whose presence is just going to chill them out. I can be that for some students. Other kids, my magic isn't that's not the vibe they need, but can I send them to someone else that they're just going to be more chill in there, and then everyone wins.
It's difficult, especially
it's
like
sending
a kid out. It's great if there's 2, but if you have 3 or more, 3 or 4, and then you send them 1 out, it's like you still got 3. They're still feeding off of each other. Yeah. Partnering, I think, with another teacher is great. Okay, Chris Carson is up next asking question. CJ, what Bibles do you use regularly?
Interesting question.
Same question
Chris.
for me.
I used to read the Message. I used to read NIV. I try to switch to King James. Because in my research, that is the closest translation from like the original text that exists. But I have to decipher a lot of stuff. And so when I read, I do really close readings of the Bible, right? It's like looking up words. So I read, my kids laugh at me, my own children, they're like, so right now I'm trying to read the Bible through and I'm in the book of Exodus. They're like, we did that like 2 months ago in school. And I'm like, listen, like I'm going passage by passage. If I don't understand something, I look up every blessed thing that I don't understand. And I'm doing like the slow reading of it. So I found that the New King James Version is my favorite. I think some of the other ones, and people can read whatever they want. I'm not trying to tell anyone that like the other versions are wrong. They definitely feel watered down to some capacity where I've noticed things where like they'll change language, and instead of calling a group of people like barbarians, they're like, they were islanders. And I'm like, I think like I'm not trying to change words in here, right? And or find like a nicer way to put it. It is what it is. So I like the New King James version the best. And then I've been using a commentary. If anyone else has a better commentary, I'd love to hear it. But Enduring Word is a website that I use for commentary because it gives you not just that pastor who's, funny enough, I've never listened to any of his sermons. He has a commentary of the entire Bible, but he mentions a bunch of other commentaries in there as well. And I really like that for my own research piece of it.
I use the same thing.
Yeah.
I like.
But what's the other app that you use for reading the Bible?
It's a Hebrew. It's called SKJV. And it's, well, I can't really show you the app.
But what does it do? I forget. It's like a word study. It like identifies words
study, that you and like you can click on a word like righteousness, and it'll give you the Hebrew version and definitions and where else it's used in the Bible and how it's connected and what it means. So it's a really in-depth word study, but I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I just use that as another way to like bounce off things or like to understand words in a deeper, because I really do like Enduring Word commentary as well, but it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Where I can click on a word and see where else, how it was used in the Bible and stuff like that. But
so I prefer Enduring Word on the desktop to the app because I can toggle things and I look stuff up. And
I flip through all my apps. I have 3 of them open in the morning sometimes when I read the Bible. But I also read really slow to try and understand what there's a lot packed into 2 or 3 verses, so it takes a minute.
I know. You ever read in the morning and you're like, man, that's all I got through, huh? Like, I've been reading about plagues. It feels like forever. I'm like, how many plagues were there? 1,000?
So many.
It's like, why frogs? It's so weird.
Okay.
That's when I think God has a sense of humor. And I'm like,
there's reason for everything.
Pick frogs.
Okay, but that's like, I like the commentary because it tells you the reason and the history behind why frogs.
Yeah, because Egyptians thought that they were
super interesting, right? Because I don't know all the history and like what was happening at that time period, but that's why I like those things. It gives a lot more context and meaning when you really understand. Like you have to understand the time period that was written in too.
Yeah. And then I end up just looking things up online.
I don't do that.
I do.
Okay. Good Target is up next asking, I have 2 students that do not stop talking to each other. Other teachers have the same issue. School doesn't allow us to talk to parents and don't address the situation. What can I do?
What?
A hyper 6-year-old.
All right.
That's a tough one because they're 6.
I would try and, oh man. All right.
This is like
I swear. Let me just
like a Sebi, our nephew. We can only imagine what he's like in class, but when he comes over and like we watch him, my man is like just all over the place. He's got the wiggles,
singing
he's doing
songs
things.
all the time.
Like I'm like, oh boy, what is
magical.
What is class? He's wonderful.
Man,
he's
I love
a beautiful kid, but
you got to know how to play that instrument, right? It's like
wonder what teachers are like with him in class.
So first of all, it's really, I swear, it's like sometimes I feel like teachers come with questions and it's like, let's just throw this one in there. Because it's like, I feel for you because the rule is so ridiculous. Not calling home is so, I can't, in what world is that not a good idea? That is their child, right? This isn't like, I think sometimes teachers overstep, schools overstep. It's like y'all are doing stuff and it's like you're not the parent. They have parents. They need to know. If I didn't find out about something, I would be livid. I'd find out a way around that. And I think the way I'd go around that is contacting home and just saying like, hey, is there anything, like when I always say like, is there anything you'd like me to know about your student that I don't know? And then like I'm calling home for something else. I'm not calling home for that particular issue, but then like maybe it comes up, right? Or something like that. I think those students probably, especially because they're 6, they need something to do with that energy. You have to give them, I would have, maybe it's a job, maybe I'm changing their seat, maybe I'm changing the way that they have to answer these questions or they have to do this work. It is something that is silly, that is fun, that is interesting. When you're 6 or 16, sometimes you do not, you know that what you're doing isn't maybe right, maybe it's not good, maybe it's not what's not desired by the teacher, but you don't know what to do with it. And this idea that kids can sit still and pay attention for the whole period is absurd. We need to give them something to do. So maybe that student stands up at the wall and writes, you tack their paper to the wall. Maybe they write it on a whiteboard. Maybe they write it, to come up with, someone said last week that their teacher used to put shaving cream on their desk and they would write their answer with their finger. Maybe they write with an expo marker on your desk. That's why I like the expo marker on the desk better, but because I do not like messy. But it is trying to figure out ways. It's talking to that student. Hey, listen, I notice that you talk all the time. I notice that you're not getting your work done. What would help? What do you think? What would be a fun way we could solve that problem? Trying to think of things like that. By no means ever give that kid candy as a reward, right? Or like anything with any artificial anything. I'd be giving them like some celery and, melatonin or something like that. But it is, right? Is that the right one? What do you take? Magnesium. Don't give melatonin. I don't know what the hell you're doing with that.
Melatonin makes you sleepy also, but don't give kids any drugs.
Yeah. Same. Maybe it's like just sprinkle someone. No, I'm just kidding. It is sometimes Reynolds jokes about drugging kids. It is, that was out of pocket. I'm trying to think of though, like I would let them be a part of the solution. So what you're doing is identifying behavior, not making them feel bad about it, right? Because they don't know, they know that they're different than everyone else, right? And so here's the behavior, here's what we need to get done. Your job is not to sit down and be quiet. Your job is to master the content. How can we do that? And see what their little brains come up with, right? And can we partner with something? Can we come up with an idea? Like, what can we do together? And then I would talk to other teachers. Y'all need to be trying stuff together, coming up, because if it works in your class, everyone else needs to know about this and should be implementing this as well, if they can in their class. So it's working together and just dream. Like I even have like a dream session. Here's the problem. What can we do so this kid, here it is. So this kid wins, not so they stop doing the behavior. How do we do this so they win? And that's where it's anything goes. Just dream up bizarre stuff that we're going to come up with, even things that we can't do, and make sure that conversation has a positive invitation. I can feel like that can create a lot of sarcastic comments and ideas. How do we make this so that's going to be something that's really useful for the student?
One thing that I would say to not do is, especially I feel like at a six-year-old level, a lot of the things that they do is they take away specials, they take away recess time, and that should ever happen, because they need those outlets. Like a kid like that needs
You're shooting yourself in the foot.
You are. It's like, give them recess and like make sure that they're running during recess and gym and these other things. Like they need, or like a child like that might not, they might have difficulty sitting through math and English, but like they might excel in art. So they're more focused, right? So like you don't want to take away their specials, but I know in a lot of schools that's like one of the first things that is as a form of punishment
should never be
taking away specials and recess. And I just think like, don't ever do that one, because you really are damaging yourself. Like that's why doing things at high energy in your classroom, like gamifying things as much as possible, is going to help, I think. But it also could make them go a little bit more nuts. But that's gamifying, but you have to teach them how to like control their behavior. But that's a tough one. That's a tough age. And that's a tough age to be hyper. I remember when our boy was 6 and he was like, in my mind is literally flashing like Brody when he was like, like he was just had so much energy. He would just like explode with like crazy aggression even. Yeah. So best of luck. I hope some of that helped.
Yeah. Hey, did that thing come up at all that we talked about?
I don't know what we talked about.
In the beginning?
Oh, no.
No. Okay, cool.
I love that you just did this.
They don't know what I'm saying. It's a secret.
No, but that's the end of our questions.
Cool. All right. Well, that's the end of our hour anyway. So, gang, we'll be shifting this not till after the new year. Wanted to let you know that was going on. Please let me know if there's any issues there with changing from this being on all these different platforms to just YouTube, if that's going to cause an issue for anyone. And if you need anything from us, please let me know. The end of this, I'm throwing up a QR code in a second that's going to have my speaking information. If your school wants to have, I'm put out there, I'm going to say, if your school wants to have the best professional development that they've ever had, right? You hit me up and we're going to make that happen. I don't care if your school has a budget or not. We'll figure something out. So you let me know.
And you can really say that, because how many schools have you done professional development with this year that have actually said that to you?
Yes.
Like multiple schools.
They go, that was the best professional development that we ever had. And I don't say that lightly, because I don't really, compliments don't come easy. And then for me to share a compliment is even harder. I'm just letting you know, because I want to help your teachers have the best year they could possibly have, no matter what the circumstances are. That's it, gang. We'll see you next week. Peace.